That's funny. I didn't know that. Amie, you just hopped on. We're live. Um, Good morning, everybody. Amie's sitting in. That was like at the buzzer, sitting in for Barbara O'Connor. Obviously, we miss Barbara. So, welcome. This is our 50th, the big 50 jam session. And when we started these, I mean, these really came. We had an event that was scheduled at Avondale Bowl. I think it was May 25th, 24th. It doesn't matter, of 2020. Point in May 8th. That's when it was, of 2020. And obviously COVID hit and got word that, hey, this is going to be postponed. And here I'm sitting thinking, oh yeah, we'll do it in June. No, we were not going to do it in June. Yeah, we'll do it in July. And of course, here we are, over a year later. And I never thought, I was throwing these together. Joel knows. Joel was on a couple of the first ones. I think Cheri, you were too. This was like throwing mud at the wall, but people seemed to enjoy them. And it was just a very creative way to keep people plugged in, connected, talking shop. And so this is the 50th one. People have been asking me, hey, when the in-person stuff does resume, Andy, are you guys going to still be doing these? I'll put it on. It's kind of like a little mini podcast, I guess. I'll put it on my car. I'll go through your feed, look at them later. The short answer is we probably will do them. It just won't be as frequently because I think people are fiending to get, just to get back out there in the city, hanging out in person, food, drinks, all that fun stuff. So what I'm just honored to actually have a designated topic. We're going to unpack the pros and cons of the PLN this morning, and I'm going to keep my part super brief. So I'm going to have the realtors very quickly introduce themselves, Kate, Amie, and then the guys. And just super quick name, how long you've been in real estate for, and your brokerage. I'll have the partners introduce themselves, and then I literally will remove myself from the situation and get out of the way. So Kate, why don't you kick us off?
Hi, I'm Kate Waddell with Compass, and I've been selling real estate for 15 years, and I'm super excited to be here. Thanks, Andy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amie Klujian with Dreamtown Realty. I'm a part of Sway Group at Dreamtown, and I've been selling real estate also for 15 years.
Morning, guys. Dennis Huyck from Keller Williams One Chicago. I'm 32 years old, and I've been selling real estate for 20 years.
Love it.
I'm Giancarlo Bargioni with Dreamtown Realty. I've been in real estate for 15 years and honored to be on the show.
Mark Zipperer here from Remax Next. I was an original realtor that was part of the relo of people coming off the Mayflower. That's how seriously, 18 years and counting.
By far the best line. So before I give the partners a chance to introduce themselves, I just want to say they have carried us. Katrina, Joel, Cheri, not necessarily in that order, but why not? You guys have carried us these last 14, 15 months. Like, I cannot do what I do without you guys. And I know you guys know that. We're excited to get back meeting, rallying people in person. Joel knows I live vicariously through him with his. I'm like, man, that just looks fun. I want to be in an RV. And then I have like 3 children tugging at my leg. And, I just go back and go in my office and put the blinders on and do work. But it's been super cool to just see the support, and I just feel very blessed to just be connected and just be in community with all you guys. So I'm gonna allow the partners to introduce themselves, and we're gonna start talking shop. So Katrina, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I am Katrina Barnett. I am a real estate attorney. I have been in real estate law primarily since, oh gosh, it's going on 8 years now, and I've been a licensed attorney for going on 10 soon. So yeah, Katrina Barnett.
Hi, I'm Cheri Kasella. I have owned Haven Home Staging and Redesign for 12 years. And yeah, Andy, thanks so much for keeping us connected over the last 14 months. It's been great.
And I'm Joel Schaub. I've been the Vice President of Mortgage Lending at the corporate headquarters for Guaranteed Rate since 2005. And just a big shout out to Andy here. You guys literally have created a real community. It's not just the magazine. So big shout out to what you've built. I remember when we started, it was maybe like this thin. And now it's literally like super thick. You've really kept the community together, and it's no joke. It's meant a lot over these last several months while we weren't together for you to be putting these things on.
And I appreciate that. Yeah, we have a waiting list. I mean, for like a partner waiting list, which is actually speaks a testament to what we do. So I am going to get out of the way and just let's start talking. I mean, people who are obviously listening to this want to know, PLN pros, cons, agree, disagree. And I want to give a little kudos to Mark because this was his idea technically. So Mark goes, hey, I loved your jam sessions. I've been on a few. Let's do one on the PLM. He got some agents rallied, and then we did one 2 weeks ago, which went really well. But obviously, it's not an hour topic, so we figured we do like a round two. So Mark, the floor is yours, and then we can start. The conversation will ebb and flow from there. I'm going to shut up for the next 45 minutes or so. I might throw in a witty remark here and there, but that's all you're going to hear from me. So Mark, go ahead, my friend.
Well, Andy, how gracious. Thank you for setting this up and promoting point counterpoint and education amongst all of us. Morning, everybody. I think that there's a good amount of debate out there about the PLN, and many of us spend a good amount of time educating the public about it and debating it amongst ourselves to figure out how useful it is. I think it was set up for listings that are coming soon, or it probably evolved or built a bit more during COVID for obvious reasons. People that were concerned about multiple people in a busy market traipsing through their house. And so quietly listing a property through the PLN certainly seemed to make sense. But now we have a bit of an evolution with COVID as well, and vaccines, and people deciding that that some of the protocols that we were using last year aren't as important. And then, of course, part two of that is that MRED changed the search function in PLN and allowed us to send those listings to our clients much easier, which I personally found it problematic before they changed the search function and the email function, that I was, doing many things, downloading photos, educating clients, answering a billion questions. So since the change, I have found it a lot more useful. And in my opinion, and I'm interested to hear feedback out there, I think the number of listings on the PLN have gone down since MRED changed the search function. Have you guys noticed that? Hello?
I haven't noticed that. I think we're starting to see more real estate agents see the more upside of just letting the market determine value, as opposed to almost essentially hedging with a PLN listing. So I think that we have inventory constraints across the board. But I just think that more agents, in my opinion, depending on what they're using that private network tool for, we're seeing less inventory go on there, only because I think it's just more beneficial for some listings to just kind of go out into the public and let the market determine value.
Yeah, definitely the plus in a low inventory market. And I think, in the beginning, it was set up for listings that are coming soon, but then it got to the point where it was almost a listing source that was running parallel to the regular MLS, because you could still show these properties like you could any other listing. They just weren't making them out, or the listings weren't making it out to other websites, whatever other websites. The listings weren't being syndicated. So I just wrestle a bit with the value. I get, some of the purpose of it is letting other agents know about something that's coming soon, or people preparing their properties. But if it can be shown as a regular listing, then I wrestle with what the value of it is. Why put it on the PLN?
So I'm curious, if you guys utilize it the same way that I do. I'd love your feedback. I'm sure you guys do, but the reason that we look at PLN or start all our listings in PLN and we couple it with Top Agent Network, which I honestly get a little more return from in terms of value, is to get some really, really good feedback, right? So we price a listing put it on PLN and Top Agent Network and give it a week, at least a week. And if I get nothing during that week period, we're priced too high, right? So it's really a great way to like create that early demand and buzz. And if people are banging down my door, we priced it pretty well. Or maybe when we go to MLS, we can go a touch higher. But if it's crickets during PLN and Top Agent Network, I priced it too high. So guess what? Before the MLS, we're going to reduce the price. That's the value I see in PLN and Top Agent Network. Like beyond that, like I'm not crazy about a seller accepting an offer on PLN and Top Agent Network because obviously it hasn't seen the market. Like to Giancarlo's point, you want to see what the market thinks this home is worth, right? But I think it's like a gut check. It's like really good pricing feedback.
Yeah, Kay, I think you're spot on. I use the PLN network in the same way that you do, is, to kind of get a gauge of the market. But sometimes you come across a listing where there's just so much more value to this property that comps just can't tell you, right? And you're kind of filling the pieces of the puzzle with adjustments or whatnot. So sometimes, getting it on the PLN and seeing how agents are responding and what kind of interest you're actually generating, really, kind of sets you apart. Obviously, if we have a listing that we know is going to fly off the shelves, I'm not so sure if I'm going to put it on the PLN, only because I know this thing is going to go. And as soon as I put it on the PLN, I'm just going to get swarmed. But there are definitely some listings for sure where, just like you, it's like, look, you know what? I think this property is worth more than what the comps are telling me. Let's find out with the top 10% of realtors that are out there, and let's see what they have to say. And I think that when you're getting that kind of feedback, when you're getting that type of interest from people at the highest levels, then okay, we're spot on. Now we could push it a little bit more.
I just have a question for you guys listing on the PLN and then going over to the MLS before you're accepting offers. Are there ever situations where you're worried when you do increase that price? Because I've had this happen on about 6 transactions this last week, actually, where the appraisals came in way lower than the purchase price, and it's now causing problems with lending. So obviously that doesn't matter on cash transactions, but are you guys seeing, because of what the market is right now, and I know it's slowly changing over, but it was such a strong seller's market for a while here, are you guys seeing problems where it's overinflated the prices just because that's what the market's allowing, and then seeing those prices driven back down by appraisals?
Knock on wood, I haven't had an appraisal issue in 2021. Knock on wood. I had one in 2020, and my team and I do about 100 deals a year. So we've been lucky, but a lot of people are talking about, is that coming? Is that going to start to go on as people are paying over asking? But I'm not sure PLN would have an impact necessarily on appraisal. Are you thinking if people price it on PLN at 600 and then put it on MLS at 625 and there's history for appraiser to see?
Right. So I'm talking about kind of like what you were saying, how if you get a ton of feedback while it's on the PLN and then you may put it on the MLS for a higher price because of how much interest you were getting. Have you seen any problems from that? And like you were saying, I'm just starting to see in the last week or two appraisal issues. I feel like appraisers are starting to come in and be like, no, we need to get this market back down to where it should be, I guess, in their minds. And I don't know if Joel has any input in that either, but I've literally had to negotiate multiple price reductions or changing credits around and things like that in the last week. And luckily every single one, because these buyers really want these properties and go in knowing that they're most likely bidding over the value, all of them have worked out so far. But again, I've had an appraisal come in 60,000 under the purchase price, and that's rough, because that's a huge chunk of change to have to make up on top of closing costs. So yeah.
I haven't run into any appraisal issues from moving a property from the PLN onto the MLS for a higher price. So I'm not sure if that will make an impact on the appraisal. The only time I really had appraisal issues is when obviously there's just a bidding war, and then sometimes and I haven't had an appraisal issue because I usually catch it beforehand, but I think that what we're seeing is a strategy amongst realtors, and not anyone on this panel, or I don't think maybe even the top producers, but there's definitely some agents that are out there that will purposely overbid a property so they can get it under contract just to purposely renegotiate. And I do think that that might have something more to do with kind of what you're experiencing, where it was overbid the property and then we'll renegotiate, the appraisal doesn't come back. There's that element, and I know that's actually out there, but from PLN to MLS, because we're getting an elevated amount of activity on PLN, and then putting it on the price on the MLS, no, I have not run into that.
Sounds good. And this is just a question because I actually have no idea how this works, being on the legal side of things, and maybe Joel could help with this, but do appraisers, and again, like you were just saying, a lot of my transactions that have had these problems have been multiple offer situations where it drove up the price. Are appraisers able to see the PLN network, or are they only able to see the MLS and comps that are there? Because we've had multiple appraisal appeals, and as all of you guys probably know, 98% of the time, appraisal appeals don't work. So I'm just wondering.
Yeah, they can see the PLN.
They can? Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure about that. So, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Joel,
Most of those people.
Oh, sorry, Cheri.
No, that's okay. Are most of those people though in a multiple bid situation though, they realize they're going to have to come in with cash, right? I mean, aren't you guys just having those types of conversations with your buyers ahead of time so they're prepared for those sorts of situations?
Yeah, I know my clients, most of them are prepared to bring a certain amount. So we'll negotiate something like the buyer is willing to cover a low appraisal up to $10,000. But if it comes in 30,000 under, that may not be something they were financially prepared for. So that's where I'm seeing, and again, most of them are not coming in that low. I've only had that happen twice. So from my perspective, it seems like people are pretty willing to negotiate because they understand what the market's like. I was just wondering, because I never find out how my clients went under contract typically, unless the agent tells me. I don't know if they went under contract in a multiple offer situation, or on a private listing and it never went to market. And that always changes. Usually I've been asking that at the beginning of the transaction now, because that also affects attorney review negotiations, inspection negotiations, especially. Because if you know that you went under contract on a property prior to it hitting the MLS, you know that that seller can just terminate and go to the MLS if they feel like your requests are outlandish. So it's been reining in clients for both inspection items and making them aware that, like, order your appraisal as soon as you feel like you are comfortable moving forward with the property after the inspection, even if inspection negotiations are going on, so that we can resolve any appraisal issues as soon as possible.
But the other thing that's happening just in front of all that is, to get some of these deals put together, clients are waiving inspections, they're buying as is. We're using appraisal riders. So, if they've got enough cash, the value, is sort of a moot point. I'm with the rest of the crowd. I think that, knocking on wood, because we're all superstitious, I'm surprised I haven't had an appraisal issue. I'm thrilled about it. And I challenge an appraiser if I hear something about appraisers setting value, I say, no, you do not set the value. I will never, ever accept that. If I've got 4 offers and it's bid up, the market is setting the value. I am not going to let an appraiser set anything. I mean, here's the other thing, guys, and that is, some people are freaking out, maybe, I think, over, high numbers. And there's definitely pockets of some, single family houses that have increased a lot, but I sell a lot of condos in Lakeview. For instance, I just sold one at Park Place, and lo and behold, it's the same price that it sold for in 2003. So we've had stinky appreciation since 2003, and it's time we get in the game. And so somebody's, weirded out about the value. I'm like, hey, listen, what can you buy at 2003 prices? I mean, Chicago, it's time for us to step up with the rest of the coast and get some value in this town.
Fair.
I agree. Chicago has been
Finding
so
that when
conservative.
sorry, go ahead, Dennis.
Oh, no, just saying, like, in my 20 years experience, when we've seen the ups and the downs from the coast, we've always been kind of slow and steady as she rolls. So I do feel like when we talk about these appraisal issues that do come into play, and, you know, Katrina make us all kind of earn our keep, it's been minuscule compared to the madness and the roller coasters that you've seen, you know, East Coast, West Coast type thing. So it does seem like through all of this, just like Katrina said earlier, we usually get to the finish line, you know, a little bit of pain on either side, but I'm with you, Mark. It's like, when's it coming? When's it coming?
I miss the boom, you know, for those of us that have been around for so long, the boom when I was like focused on my spreadsheet about how much my properties were going up, and I'm like, yay. And now I have to report, you know, since the bust, it's like we've been limping along in many cases at 1%. I mean, that's ridiculous. So, you know, you know, of course, Chicago has its dirty laundry like every city does. And, you know, it's just interesting to navigate this storm. But then when people get all concerned about values being out of whack and, oh my God, the sky is falling like it did in 2008, I'm like, hold on a second. Our prices aren't that bad. And, you know, at 3%, I mean, Jesus, pretty soon mortgage companies are going to pay us to take their money, right, Joel? I mean,
That's right. Yeah, we're getting close.
I paid 10.5%. That was my highest rate a long time ago, but Jesus, it's almost free. I was paying down my mortgage, you know, faster because I'm old and, you know, I never know when I'm going to end. Retire. I'm teasing. But the investment guy said, what the heck are you doing? I said, what do you mean? I'm like, I want to get it paid off. He's like, I can make more money for you in the market.
Yeah.
Interesting, right?
Do you guys think, seeing how, at least from my perspective, it seems like it's more evening out from being a straight seller's market to maybe getting a little bit more even right now? Do you guys expect values to stay where they're at or keep rising, or do you expect them to start falling here?
Last 3 weeks have been relatively slow for market activity on my listings. I'm hoping, you know, we get ebbs and flows even in the best of markets, I do believe. So I think there's plenty more time, you know, for us to get business done and for people to move, but we'll see what happens after Memorial Day weekend. I mean, I think the city's going to be empty this weekend as everyone's dying to get out of town, and hopefully there'll be a regroup come next week and, you know, a nice little run of folks trading properties. Till when, guys? 4th of July? Hopefully.
Hey, Katrina.
I'm wondering what you guys think about pulling back a little bit to the PLN. Like, what are some of the key seller advantages and seller disadvantages? And what are the key buyer advantages and buyer disadvantages? Because I think it really depends on scenario to scenario, but in general, there are some, and we all coach our clients through whether they're sellers or buyers with each one. I'm just curious what scenarios you guys have that you could share on some of those segments so that people perhaps watching newer agents or whatever have a sense of, you know, what you know, of that.
I'll say something quick and then I'll stop, but it's been a different process for me than what you guys mentioned earlier. For me, the value has been maybe a little bit of greed coming into play, but testing the price above where I'm telling them the value is, getting a free set of eyes without hitting market time. It's kind of been a reality check for most of my sellers. It hasn't been the other way where it's been so crazy that we were able to come to market higher. It's been, all right, you know, this didn't happen at this price where you thought, because all the stuff that you're reading about how crazy things are didn't come to terms here. So let's have a reality check when we go to market. That's been my experience, but that's been positive. It's kind of kept me out of maybe pricing issues on the listing side.
That's
You guys,
exactly. I agree.
Us too with that. That's been a good pathway to test pricing, to even push pricing. It's a day-to-day thing with the market. Like, we're all eyeballing it. We're looking at what's active. We're looking at what's under contract, how fast that flow is happening. But for us and my team, it's been a useful tool to use. And luckily, when we've even tested a little higher than what we thought, the market in multiple offer situations has driven even that price way higher. And it's been, that's how the ball's bounced so far with us. But it's also helpful for sellers in a way. We did something we've never done before. We tested a property on market, PLN, at a price that was higher, which is fine. We do that. We told them, don't stage, don't make the house perfect. There is no inventory in the PLN. There is no inventory active right now in this price point. And we nailed it and got like 25 even over what we were getting. And it was just a lesson for us, like to get out of our typical patterns sometimes and adapt to what we're seeing. And luckily the sellers trusted us and we went with it. And we've never listed a property without pictures or anything.
Amy, what price point was that?
Not to say the ball's going to bounce that way every time, but I'm still seeing a little of that in this market. And it was
What price point was that house?
1.2.
1.2.
Was it a single family?
Yes.
Wow.
And there's this market, a market segment, right? I mean, I think you could put a pile of garbage on a piece of land next to the train and it would sell.
Because I just did something very similar in Bucktown where I have like a little 2-bed, 2-bath condo that my clients have rented for years and it's in tough shape. It's not good. And I told them, you got to paint it, paint the cabinets, new carpet, new countertops. Like, we're going to give this thing a facelift for $10,000 or $15,000 and then let's go to the market. And they thought, well, can you just test it? So I did that exact thing. I have no professional photos. I have no staging. The tenant lives there. It's a disaster. And we threw it on Top Agent Network, PLN, and we got a couple groups through, but they all were like, this place is garbage and nothing. So I said on clients, oh, I'm sorry. Like, we tried to save you the money of staging and doing everything, but unfortunately it didn't work out. So I don't know if that's a price point thing or not.
I think price point plays a role for sure in certain, absolutely. So yeah.
400K buyer couldn't foresee doing the work, right? They don't have the cash or whatever, what have you, but it didn't work out, unfortunately. So we tried.
Yeah, to build off of Kate's strategy there, yeah, I mean, I think that's an advantage for some of those listings that we know are going to be difficult or we know that need a little bit of attention. So by, putting it on the PLN, sometimes you can, the advantage there is, you can jump in front of it and, kind of put it out there to see if you could actually sell it in an as-is condition for a high price with less out-of-pocket expenses for the sellers. Sometimes it works. I mean, I've been, I just had a listing that I sold in Mount Greenwood where we didn't even have a vanity in one of the bathrooms. We put it on PLN and we sold it. All right. And the guy was like, we'll take it as is. And it saved my client about $7,000 or $8,000 of prep work. And we actually sold it for 10 or 15 grand more than I thought we were going to get for it. So I think it's a case by case basis. And I think really, if you're strategic with how you're using PLN, to Kate's point, if we're going to use PLN to gauge price, that's a strategy. If we're going to use PLN to save our clients out-of-pocket expenses because we know we can't put this thing on the market, that's a strategy. I think the truly seller disadvantage really is, are we really selling it and giving it the exposure? It's limited market exposure, and so it's always hindsight in 2020 where it sells in the private listing network. You always have that doubt, like, would it have sold more, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's really a true disadvantage. But if you're managing your clients' expectations and saying, hey, look, you got to paint the cabinets. We got to swap out these countertops. You got mildew all in your, your carpet is terrible. All right. We've got to paint the ceiling. There's champagne on it. I mean, like, it's just a nightmare in here. Using the PLN for that is perfect. You also avoid open house, traffic, showings, right? You limit all that. And sometimes you catch a good fish, you know what I mean? And it'll actually sell. But I think a good advantage for buyers are you get to avoid a bidding war, but at the same time, the way I try to run a PLN is the price is what the price is, right? I don't know if we're going to be too negotiable on the price. At least that's my client's position. So if you want this property, you want to avoid a multiple offer situation or market exposure, well then, the price has to go on par, with the risk. And, that's been successful too. A disadvantage for buyers is, well, are we overpaying? And I guess that's where your agent comes in at.
Or buyers don't know about it because it's only, within the agent population, of course, there's all levels of experience and motivation. I feel like I scour everything daily and I'm freakish if I've missed something. And even Top Agent Network, I watch all the emails like Kate mentioned, and I try to be diligent about it and I send them on, but I'm like, is the run-of-the-mill agent really doing any of this? And I think no. So for those of us that really put the effort in, I think it gives our buyers an advantage.
Have you guys noticed the popularity of PLN just growing because in the MLS, like we're to the point where you're not just getting one offer when you throw something on PLN, you're getting like more than 5?
No,
That's happened too. So I think I think the most we've gotten was like 11 offers off a PLN listing. And
Amie, I want your listings.
that was
What's
insane.
going on?
Well, of course, I'm only talking about the good stuff, but it can go both ways. But it's like really, it's a day by day thing. With one day you could have no inventory and what you're looking for on the PLN, and then the next day, there'll be a lot. It's a day by day adaptable task for us as good brokers, and it's an education also for our clients who don't always understand the distinctions. And frankly, I'm losing the distinction a little bit between the PLN and the regular MLS. They're starting to blend in my mind in terms of just functionality. I feel like sometimes I see properties listed on both at the same time. Maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like that to me. And I'm starting to wonder, is PLN going to start, is PLN going to be where it's at until the market settles more? Like it's just an interesting, I just find it like almost serving the same function now that you could load all the pictures and send it to your clients, which thank God, I'm happy about those 2 huge improvements. And that's what's making it more useful to everyone, I think. But I just, wonder, is there going to start to be a cap with how long something could be on the PLN before it goes to the MLS? Like, it's an interesting thought to see like how properties are going to migrate, and there might be less in the MLS.
Joel, I was going to ask Joel, like if you've had appraisal issues, back to what we were talking about earlier, Katrina's point, like, have you seen appraisal issues this spring?
So I can't speak to what the big banks are doing, because I've been seeing a lot of people that are like you, where somebody used a brick and mortar bank and they were 70 grand low. I come in, I save the deal, and the appraisal comes in perfect. The value is there. We have 2 willing parties with a contract. Our appraisers are told, you are trying to not kill deals at our company specifically. Okay. Now there are times where somebody absolutely on a condo side by side is 55 grand more. That can be tough. Even those I get done, but there are a lot of times at some of these other institutions where it really truly is difficult to get those done. I've had over 275 transactions this year, and again, knock on wood, wherever it is, haven't had any issues at all that we've been able to not overcome. Every single one of these transactions, you have 2 willing parties, you have a price, and just kudos to you guys as agents. You're doing a little bit more work right now when that appraiser comes to say, I know we're above on the final price. This is 25, so you guys are giving comps up front, and most of the good ones are, so that these deals, you're ahead of it because you're expecting it. If it's listed at $1.2 million and it comes in at $1.25 million, do you have some comps ready to go? And most of the people that I know that are in this room really are doing that.
And just to piggyback off of what Joel just said, obviously I have a whole range of clients who have different lenders across the board. And I agree with him. It's the Chase banks, it's the Bank of America, it's those kind of lenders that we're having problems with appraisals. And I also agree with him. It makes a huge, huge difference when the agents are showing up to appraisals, they're giving the comparables, they're explaining the process of how it went under contract so that the appraiser is aware of that. Obviously, as Mark had touched on before, every agent is different. And I do work with some agents who are completely hands-off, like some Redfin agents that I work with are completely hands-off once they go. Guess I shouldn't have said that. Some are great. Some are great. I'm not hating on Redfin here. I'm saying that there are some agents who, as soon as they send me a contract, they're hands off and I don't hear from them until they're sending me their commission statement. So they have no part in the negotiations for inspections, no part in the appraisals. And I find that that actually, especially when it comes to appraisals, makes a big deal right now. In the past, it wasn't that big of a deal because everything was appraising out. But right now, having an agent who is prepared and has comparable properties and can sit there, and the few times that we've had successful appraisal appeals, it's because the agent was able to come up with a ton of comparable properties that the appraiser didn't even consider.
Katrina, you make a point here where if you're at Bank of America or you're at Chase Bank and 90% of their deals go through, that's perfectly an acceptable number for them. That means there's still somebody else coming through the door. But if 90% of my deals, meaning 10% of my deals don't close, Mark is never going to send me another buyer. If 10% fall out, so that's how this year I'll do almost $300 million of production. And we know that these deals will go through because we're the trusted provider. Making sure that you have a resource is the number one thing that you have, whether it's me or obviously somebody else. Having that person that you can pick up the phone and say, this bank was low, can you make it happen? So that you can be the expert and save the day for these clients and then get more referrals.
Oh, and it does happen where we've had multiple transactions where the lender has switched in the middle of the transaction and the seller is willing to wait for that new appraisal to be done. The only time obviously that doesn't work is when it's FHA or VA because those stick around for 6 months. But
I have a solution for that too.
Oh, do you? We'll have to we'll have to talk later because that just will come up sometimes with VA and FHA where we're then stuck, or so we think at least. So, but yeah, kudos to all of you guys who are able to and on top of things like that for your clients because it does make a huge difference.
Bring your
let me chime in real quick. I love the authenticity on this because a lot of times if people are saying something, they've thought about it for a month, 2 months, you know, as time has gone on. Obviously there's a way to say stuff, but I love just the candor and the stuff that's going on here. So before I forget at some point, and then you guys can think about your next point of topic, but I'm going to demand in my big father of four voice right now. But it's supposed to be funny, so you guys can like laugh because we're about to take a picture right now. Okay.
You gotta say it. I want to hear the voice.
Like, if Ellis comes in here right now, you will get it. So there was a point where I was on one of these. Maybe it was just a realtor interview. I don't remember, but he was like sitting right here, and he's just bugging. And finally, I'm like, "What am I doing? He's my son." So I just pick him up, put him in the screen. He does his little cheese ball thing, and then he just leaves. You know, that's just the world we're in. So, you know, I was like, what am I doing? Like I'm professional, like whatever, you know, like, come on, Andy, you know, I just had this moment. Okay. That is a good segue to absolutely nothing. And so on the count of 3, smile, and you have to hold the smile for like, when you see me stop smiling, then you stop smiling. Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hold on here. Oh gosh, she's like literally just came down right now. Okay, hold on. I think we got it. We nailed it on the first try. Come here, bud. Gosh, I'll never do this. Here, all right. Do this little. All right.
He's so cute.
He's adorable.
All right, that business guys, come on, put on the suit and you know, do what you do. But no, I love the ebb and flow of the just unpacking this. Maybe we'll do a PLN jam session 3. Who knows? I totally forgot what we were talking about. I derailed everybody with that. So,
well, I think the appraisal chatter was very good.
Yes, thank you, Mark.
And if I can just say one thing, like Mark, you're a guy that I've looked up to in this business for a long time. And when you talk and when you bring up points, there's a reason behind it. And so I'm appreciative to be here with calling you out specifically. And I remember when there were a lot of appraisal problems and you were the one taking the lead on those issues for our industry.
Oh, during the bust, you know, so
Yeah, back,
you know, we were just praying that things would get to value. And now it's so weird to be a part of the other side of it. I'm like, is this business ever level? No, it's never level. I mean, and it would be boring. And so we're always like running around with our hair on fire.
yeah, it's always
Talking
something
about
to be fought, right? Go ahead.
talking about appraisal issues, and when you do put a property on PLN and you're not getting that value, how are you then deciding like what they really need to do as far as do they put the money into updating the property, or do they lipstick on a pig and stage it? Like, is that something you consider, you know, in this market, which way you go? It's great to probably do it all, but if, you know, the dollars aren't there, what's your preference as far as trying to update that property or do what you can with staging?
To give Cheri some props, again, my experience has been different than some of the other folks on the panel. We're having these PLN conversations about pushing price. The sellers are all talking about everything they're reading and how wonderful the market is. So before I get to the PLN and we're talking about how great the market is and how much money the seller's gonna make, I'm having the conversation like, if we want to hit top dollar and you will make a premium, whether it's on the PLN or not, you got to get the maintenance done. You got to get the paint touched up. You got to get this property staged. Then we have the opportunity to blow it through the roof. Because to me, it's a loss if, you know, you push a price, you get out to the PLN and then everyone's disappointed. So I keep you in the equation from the get-go. And there's different reasons why, you know, maybe we can't stage or, you know, can't get the place ready to go and we're in a rush and victory has happened there. But in my opinion, when we're having that pricing discussion and how great the PLN is, and it's amazing how all the consumers know about the PLN, and then what they think that's going to do for them. My goal is to keep those sellers like, let's put our best foot forward right out of the gate. And that includes your services from the beginning, in my experience.
I always like to hear that, but I do understand, like, there's sometimes where it's like, especially if you do want to worry about that appraisal or those comps that are out there, you know, and I'm sure it depends on the seller and what their ability is to pay for this, and even the time that it takes to, you know, redo floors, paint, redo cabinets. You know, I'm just curious if there's any formula you have or just any triggers where you're like, well, we're going to do the rehabbing and updating versus maybe just staging or even virtually, you know, staging it. Just curious.
My fear is that time lag if it didn't hit the first time. Now you're chasing everything and now it's like, oh, now we got to do the work. Now we have to wait for the furniture to come in. And go ahead, Mark. Sorry, I think I cut you off.
Those are the discussions you have with clients. You lay out like every option that you could think of that would enhance value, but you also have to take into consideration, sometimes it's the client saying like they got to be out by a certain time. They don't have that week or so to waste, not waste, but to spend, you know, getting the paint done and this and that. And then you just have to lay out the pros and cons of going to market as it is, the way it is. Certainly staging it. We are firm believers in staging. Like we really, I mean, it's very important to us. Usually it's critical to getting a home sold, in our experience. But sometimes you got to adapt to what's in front of you at the moment with the client's needs. Sometimes they're not even concerned about getting top dollar. Sometimes their timing is more important than anything. So that's our job, is to take all these moving parts, right? staging, painting, vanities, rehabbing, pricing, and fit it into what's going to accommodate their needs based on our expertise, and just informing them of everything. And that's really the best thing that we can do. The private network is one more tool in our chest to add to a million tools that are out there for us. And it's an important one and definitely worthy of this discussion.
Yep, I agree. It's a tool, and we evaluate it, and it evolves like everything else. And it's up to all of us as dedicated, experienced agents to, gather information like in a session like this, and decide and educate our clients.
And by experience, do you mean 400 years since 1620 when the Mayflower landed? I just want to clear that.
Yep.
Up for everybody.
Actually
Okay.
tied the boat up at the harbor and had showing sheets all ready to go.
You look great, Mark.
Thank you. A lot of oil of Olay.
400 years going strong.
Feels like
I
it.
think the MLS was too late with their PLN. Do you think there's other players that have, or do you think it's like, where do you think it is with some of the other pre-market listing networks?
I think there's only really the only two that I'm really using, which I think is probably the only two that I think most agents are using, is the Top Agent Network, and then of course the Zenlist, right? I think that's the only other platform, unless I'm missing something. But between the MLS and Private Listing Network and being able to share those listings, and then Zenlist, I mean, there's really no comparison. I mean, Zenlist is definitely far user-friendly, superior app, that actually your consumers can use without you actually having to send those properties. So is that a good feature to actually use? I think it's a wonderful tool to actually give you a value add to where you're working with potential buyers, because obviously it gives you an inch on your competitors that, hey, listen, not only can I help you in theory, with properties that are on the MLS, but I can also give you a platform where you personally can actually search for off-market opportunities and set your criteria and look for other areas as well if you're switching gears. So to answer your question, I think that Zenlist is a wonderful tool for actually our buyers. I think PLN is no more the mechanism for kind of like a coming soon. I think more or less it's really strategic in how you use it. It's kind of evolved. Is it pricing? Is it strategy? Is it trying to sell your clients less money, right? I think that PLN is just more than just a pre-market tool that you can actually use. I think it's just kind of wide open how it's evolved. And so to touch on Cheri's point, and you don't get a second chance at a first impression. However, using Private Listing Network, you might be able to avoid the cost of staging by just kind of putting it on the market, because a buyer knows that if it's on the market and it's staged and it's all done, well then, they may not have a chance, right? So I think that, more or less just how you're using PLN and what's your strategy behind it. But, just to put it on there for the sake of putting it on there with no intent or nor strategy, I think then you're misusing it.
How are you guys finding that I'm seeing more and more every weekend, seeing more and more open house signs as the weeks continue here? Are you guys finding that more people are actually willing to go in and physically see properties? Because for a while there, I was hearing that most showings were being done virtually, like just with the agent walking around with a cell phone. So I don't know how that has changed, or how you guys are experiencing that, because I'm sure it makes a big difference, the staging, especially if people are coming in person and seeing these properties in person, whether through open houses or showings.
Well, Katrina, I mean, I can just kind of really talk about my open houses, and I've actually seen some really good traffic. I'm not a fan of the virtual open house or a virtual showing. I think it's difficult to actually convince anyone to buy a property just through your phone feed. So I definitely encourage more physical showings than I would virtual. Obviously, the pandemic, shifted all that, but I haven't really seen a decrease in open house activity, at least with my listings. But then again, I'm also in my market more on the northwest side here. There's just not a whole lot of inventory, and it's just, I think that just traffic is just been pretty consistent.
Good to know.
Yeah, we've had great attendance too at the open houses. Obviously, the vaccinations played a huge role in that. At the beginning of the pandemic, you didn't have a choice but to maybe do virtual or don't do one at all. But I think that it's still pretty steady with open house traffic for sure. Inventory is still pretty low across the board. So,
how's the downtown market? Is that rebounding at all? The Loop and North Side, is that rebounding at all? Are we seeing more inventory there, more buyers looking in that direction?
I have a bunch of downtown listings, and I'm finally thankful that we're seeing increased activity. So we're still digging through some long market times, but I think it's improving, probably a function of COVID considerations. Back to the question about the open houses, things are loosening up just the same way they are for the general population. In the beginning, we were going in hazmat suits, and now we're almost back to normal, and there's no lines, and people are pretty okay. And so and we have to remind ourselves sometimes. It's like when you're, especially in a high rise, when you're in an elevator, there's all this protocol, like 1,000 questions. Are you okay if I get in the elevator? Well, yes, I've been vaccinated. You can do a dance naked in the elevator if you want to. I don't care.
Anything to sell a listing, Mark, right?
Hey, listen, if it gets us to the appraisal and we're fine, that's when I do the dance. So no, it's good. It's feeling good to be back to normal, but I agree that everything is sort of enhanced, isn't it? When you think about a normal Memorial weekend, of course, we're going to be a little bit slow like we are traditionally, but I think that, this town is going to be dead this weekend. Everyone is out. And then also, I think in August, the impact will be much higher if you watch the news and, planes increasing capacity, or try to book a rental car. We're going to California in August. What a nightmare it is. I mean, they're really expensive, and, finding them is difficult. And so I just think it's all of a function of what's going on. And we just have to know that everything's going to be enhanced until we're a year or two down the road and we're back to normal, whatever that is. I forgot what that is.
Fair. Well, that's good to know. I've enjoyed seeing more and more signs popping up for actual open houses, because for quite a while there, I wasn't seeing a lot. I was seeing the signs obviously in the yards, but not the open house signs. So that's something that has given me some hope that the market will just continue in the fashion it has.
I think COVID has turned open houses, I use them to be a little bit better, list midweek and push all the showings to the open house. You're not ousting somebody out of the house that may be a little bit more COVID sensitive, and you can get everybody in and out in 2 hours. You have a couple offers and you're done. I mean, that's the magic.
Going back to the PLN actually, and this is because I don't know how this works for you guys. Do you guys host open houses when you're only listed on a PLN, or do you have to wait until you're listed on the MLS in order to
MLS?
MLS. Okay. That would be a benefit of moving over to the MLS basically for a seller to really test the market more. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you could put showing timeframes on there if you want, and still kind of funnel brokers through at a certain time, but it won't blast out to the public.
Got it.
Well, has this been good, enchanting? Has this been a good discussion, everybody?
Absolutely.
Wow.
It's nice to take a little time out, right? Because we all have a trillion things to do, and, getting ready for a little time off or whatever, just to the back and forth thing. And this conversation turned out to be less about PLN and a little bit more about the appraisal, which I find, good to hear you guys are going through the same things we are. I mean, there was a time that I would send one of my assistants to every appraisal, and now I'm like, oh no, I'm going to that one. Yeah, I take a cappuccino and a red carpet, and babysit somebody's kids and whatever. I mean,
Well, Mark, I can promise you, the attorneys you work with and your clients, for all of you guys who do that really appreciate it, because it honestly is a night and day difference on the transactions I have. And that little bit of hand holding for that appointment goes a long way.
I wish it was limited to hand holding.
I mean, certainly appraisals serve a function, but I always say if you get 3 different appraisers at the same property in the same day, and it's not like a cookie cutter house in a suburban division, you will get 3 varying opinions. And that to me it can be slightly problematic. It's not an exact science though, but I know they serve their purpose, but yeah, you got to be prepared as an agent to come do those appraisals. Bring your comps, bring your notes. Like if you know that neighborhood and you know that values drop when you cross this street or that street, you let that appraisal know that you are the expert of value on that home. I'm not talking to you guys, just whoever might be watching this, like newer agents, be confident in your value. And like Mark, stated, most appraisers will take the comps you bring. I've maybe had one appraiser say, I don't need it, we're good, or whatever, but come prepared. Now though, they're doing drive-bys. And if that's the case, you email those comps to that appraiser. You do what you can to do your best so that if it does, God forbid, underappraised, you've done your best for your clients. And that's all we can ask, but it's frustrating sometimes, for sure, because very rarely will an appeal or even a factual corrections be, listened to. Factual corrections, they don't do that. They don't, and they're super busy too, guys. They don't want to they don't want to come back and argue an appraisal value. They're like so busy, these appraisers too, with all the refis and stuff. So that plays a little bit in favor. They might be a little more, lenient on value, even if something shows a different way, possibly, but.
It's a wild ride and we're on the roller coaster. Isn't it fun?
And you can't get off.
I've been saying I'm going to write a book for 18 years. One of these days, I'm going to start it.
I mean,
Good reminder.
A comedy show, like a real estate roast or something. Wouldn't that be fun?
That'd be good.
All the weird crap we come across. But anyway.
I think you should write a book. I mean, Mark, I think you're due. Only 18 years. I mean, that's 382 years into your life.
Mark, I have the idea. Okay.
Go, man.
I've heard of Unplugged, but it would be Mark Zipperer Unzipped, and it would just be perfect. Okay. I'm going to write it. Yeah, for sure. You and I, buddy combo.
High school about the name, and now I'm cashing in on it. I need a reality show now that the Kardashians are over.
I'd watch you.
Joel and Dennis, Mark Zipperer Unzipped, and I'm just getting this image of an elevator dance. But I think we're just gonna end it with that right there. One thing I will point. Hey, you guys know, I appreciate everybody carving the hour out. I still get requests. Hold on, you guys didn't know I was gonna do this. I still get requests. Hey, do you guys have an electronic version? It's a private publication. It just goes to the top 500 agents. People still have not downloaded the app yet. It's called Digipub. You can find it App Store, Google Play. It's free currently. I've been encouraging people, even if you never look at it, set an account, get it on your phone. And the app, I mean, it's supported by all of our partners, but today it was specifically supported by Joel, Katrina, and Cheri. You guys didn't know that, so thank you for supporting the app and helping us launch it. Joking aside, we did. This was supposed to be we're supposed to launch this year in the fall, but when COVID hit early 2020, I mean, obviously a little bit more time on my hands, so we actually got this off the ground early. So cool thing is you can find all the past issues on there. I know people go through the standings, see how they work their way up the ranks. It's kind of, I've had people tell me they have fun with this. So anyway, it's called Digipub, DIGA, P as in Paul, U as in umbrella, B as in boy. And you can set it up on your phone. We're in 100 cities, so obviously you'll download Chicago, but DuPage, North Shore, and that's really it. We don't really care about any of the other states unless you want to. So I'm joking, obviously. But no, I appreciate everybody's time. I think we can wrap it up with that. Christine, what's up? Thanks for making cameo. I didn't know there was going to be famous people on this.
Yeah.
But I do want to be respectful of everybody's time. So we're going to cut the live feed. Hold on, stop live stream right now. So we're not live on Facebook anymore. I'm going to connect everybody on here with, I have an appraiser that we do partner with. Just, obviously you can lean on them as a resource if you have questions. So I will do that, but I'll set a follow-up email with everybody's info if they want to connect separately. But you guys know the drill if you want to get on another one of these. Also, I've had people ask me, Mark, and you were the pioneer of this, and you didn't even know, if we can start doing jam sessions on specific topics. Obviously, this was a PLN one, but if you want to talk about X, let me know. I'm happy to set this up and just get other minds on here and just set the table. Because let's face it, I'm the waiter. I bring no value to these. I just set the table. You guys are the chefs. So appreciate everybody's time. I'm a minute over. You guys have money to make. I'll let you get to your day. Peace.
Hey, everybody.
Thank you, Andy.
Okay, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you.